The .30 caliber magazine clip in half a second from the guy just starting his training installing 5G said at 30 seconds he was concerned about 5G before learning the science. Well, let's see what sciencing this guy's doing. Remember, when you post something on the internet, you're either trying to inform people or get page views, so do a sexy dance or have a cat video, you're better off. So here we go. At 47 seconds, he said the current tech, or old tech, is not ionizing radiation. Therefore, all cell phone communications before today's date are safe because they're not 5G or something. He's implying that it's ionizing if it's something different. Counterpoint. He then does a bunch of other stuff we're going to get to, but he also says older signal format used a wide footprint that dissipated because it radiates, hence the name radiation. Electromagnetic radiation is not nuclear radiation. The fact that the words are used interchangeably by the health deranger is proof that the health deranger is an idiot. But the guy's stating something kind of accurate. It's non-ionizing radiation and it radiates out. But at the center point, it has to be a higher intensity level because it dissipates. This is one of a couple of things he gets right. At the 1 minute mark, he said megahertz when he meant gigahertz, and later on he said gigahertz, but still refers to what's going out now as just megahertz. Okay. He's off by a factor of 1,000 to 1. Automatic fail. But why is this important? Up close, low power radio frequency superheats water in your brain, eyes, and testicles. Counterpoint, depending on the frequency, it can't even permeate the human body. At higher frequencies, it has a tough time getting into the skin. Below a certain frequency, it can go through your body, but that also means it goes through everything else, so we tend to use lower power. Below a certain point, we can use high power to go over the horizon, but all of these are line of sight above approximately a certain megahertz rating. I'm not going to quote it because whatever. Let's go on. At 1 minute and 21 seconds, he says it causes sterility and headaches and made him useless for a day while working on the tower because he's the guy who installs things on the tower. He's a tower guy. Now, I want you to slow down for a second and realize that in the past, you couldn't install your own telephone. You had to have a telephone company repair person show up and install a phone in a building. That changed, and we had type approval eventually. That's why we don't have these rules that make it to where you have to have somebody come in and install a telephone. They just put in a line. You can just have the wire dropped at a window. I want you to think about this. The meter reader understands hydraulics for water, or is an electronics engineering technician for the electric company. The guy installing your satellite television antenna in the past had to be able to build a satellite or just install a satellite dish. The maintenance on a cell phone tower can be as simple as pull out bad module, replace it with a new one, or as complicated as programming the freaking cell towers. Look up the requirements for getting the job this person has before you take his advice. Now, I'm a homeless person in Portland, Oregon. You are permitted to ignore me if you wish, but you can double check what he said the same as I did. I'm actually trained in electronics as an electronics engineering technician from a long time ago, and I do something else. I look up shit before I make a video, most of the time. Not all the time. Sometimes I do it off the cuff because I've looked it up before. No, it doesn't cause sterility, headaches, eyeballs, and other balls to explode or be superheated when you're right next to it. However, I will point out, if you are on a microwave antenna tower, and it's not just cell phones, but if it was just cell phones, the wattage up there is 5 per emitter. So if you have 1,000 emitters, that's 5,000 watts. Okay, it's going in every direction, but yeah, if you're right on top of it. But it dissipates very rapidly because it is radiating. It gets lower intensity the further away you are. It's not Fukushima radiation. Again, he then, at the 1 minute 44 second mark, said megahertz when it's actually gigahertz he's talking about, but not always. And he said 5G is 15,000 times stronger because it's a higher frequency. Now, I'm going to cover this really quickly. When you make a signal go to a different frequency, you expend more energy to make the oscillation at a higher frequency. It does carry more energy in a way, but does it have more of an effect? And again, is it really 15,000 times stronger because it's a higher frequency? What is the actual wattage consumed by your cell phone compared to an old CB radio? Are they the same? Is it a higher frequency? Is it really putting out more energy? If it dissipates rapidly, as he's saying in the next part, it dissipates, it doesn't go as far. Is it really more powerful? Or is it shorter wavelength, also mean shorter receiving distances in some cases for the same wattage? He's saying it's stronger simply because of frequency. He said this is also involving the transmitting almost vertical or at a higher angle. He's referring to the amount of area each antenna can actually service. It's smaller, which means it's not traveling as far because it's a higher frequency. Or maybe they're lowering the wattage because they want a smaller area. Cause and effect may be getting mixed up here. I'm just answering questions. Because I am. Yes, you heard that wrong. He said it's all to make it faster. At the 2 minute and 15 second mark, he actually said something that's exclusively accurate. You can have higher speed communication if you have basically every 20 feet or every 100 feet your own personal transceiver on a post someplace. The idea is to give everybody more bandwidth. That's the entire purpose of it. Then he said at 2 minutes and 25 seconds, old radio frequency is not that bad because it dissipates because of this larger circle that it takes up. You don't absorb it as much. But you have to prove they absorb it at all, and you're saying it affects it affects your testicles and eyeballs. And superheats water in your brains as well at the 1 minute and 11 second mark. I might point out that he's saying that it superheats water in your brain. Old radio signals, if you're really close to it. But you'd have to prove that that happens. Non-ionizing radiation is supposed to be measured, all of the RF fearmongers say, by how much it heats up tissue. If it's non-ionizing, it's defined as not being able to create heat. Let's see what else we get here. Tight millimeter waveforms, troughs. Waveforms and wave troughs. A wave trough is an actual thing. He doesn't seem to know exactly what that means. By the way, if this is the zero crossing point for your radio signal, this is the high point and this is the trough. But this is the same intensity as the high point. It's just a different polarity, but it's called a trough. There's another thing that's called, well, you get standing wave effects where you have dead spots. Those create, he might be referring to that. But wave trough is a specific definition, and it refers to the highest intensity, not the lowest. It's just as high as the peak. It's just a different polarity. He is aware of this, yes? He could be talking about amplitude modulation or digital modulation, and the troughs would be when it's at lowest power level. That could be true, but he's being very vague here, and again, he's misquoting things about radio signals that he's supposed to be trained in, and now he's getting trained in 5G, but before he's even done it, he's quoting things about it that literally don't match anything you'd train somebody in if you wanted them to make sure they were safe or could do their damn job. Anyway, these millimeter waveform troughs, I'm squeezing that together, he said millimeter waves, wave troughs, and waveforms are tight, focused, so you can receive it from feet away. But radio signals are focused by using reflectors or arrays of antennas to make directional signals. If it's not directional, it's not focused. The only thing I've seen that's been talked about is making it to where the signal only radiates outward so that you can make it radiate in a disc shape so that it doesn't radiate upstairs or downstairs. But that's in a house. He's talking about every one of these being in the corner of your office everywhere, blasting you. Literally those kind of words. Okay, what are the actual frequencies? Because you don't know gigahertz from megahertz. And what's the wattage? Oh, well, you can put in 2 watts, but if you put it up at this frequency, it's 1 trillion watts. No, it's not. For the same reason that if I get a 1 watt LED and feed it out as an LED, yeah, it puts out what looks like 10 times as much light, but that's because a light bulb using a filament just wastes it as heat. It's not amplifying anything. It's just less inefficient. All we're doing is using less energy to drive them, which means we can use the same, let's say this frequency is less inefficient. Maybe that's what you're referring to. That means you can use a lower wattage. It doesn't increase the wattage by making it a higher frequency. But no buts, no infinity thing, no scalar wave memes and bullshit. If it takes 1 watt to drive it, you don't get 20 watts out. That's not how the fucking universe works, ever. If you claim to be doing this, what did he say? I'm learning the science of 5G, but you make this kind of claim, it sounds like you're making a claim that it amplifies the energy levels. That's not real. The idea here, and I'm going to repeat this, is to use lots of little stations, about the same intensity as a Bluetooth headset, at a frequency that's available, that's all, anywhere from 600 megahertz, you might have been referring to that, all the way up to 30 gigahertz. The only proposals anybody is using right now is 600 megahertz because it's available in some areas, up to Wi-Fi frequencies. They're just using something just a little bit different than the Wi-Fi frequency, like 3 gigahertz instead of 2.5, or 6 gigahertz instead of 5-point-something gigahertz, so that they don't interfere with signals. They're just using whatever's available. The idea is to use a different technology, and more accurately, a different way of doing it. Lots of little signals at half or a quarter of the wattage of what you're getting from your Wi-Fi. To make it to where, on purpose, it's a lot harder for anybody to receive a larger dose in watts. This directly affects cellular membranes that hold your cells together. No, it fucking doesn't, because there's no evidence of that at all. And if he's quoting some source he brings up about it, he has to state what the source is. We're now at the 12-minute mark, and let's see if I have to kill off the video. He's equating power with frequency and equating this both with tumor causings. None of this is real or true. There's no evidence for it at all. Every time any of you quote one of those things as a source, it always ends up the same thing. It's a lie someone told because they wanted to get funding. The funny thing about this is the claim that scientists make money by lying is only supported by political action committees and activists who pay people to make fake stories like this up. So this is me questioning them. This is like your mechanic telling you that an internal combustion engine can run on water. That would make sense if he proved it. All he has to do is show that a 5G transceiver, one of them from work, literally has on the side of it its wattage listing of, let's say, 5 watts for this equipment, and have it showing at least that it's consuming 20 times that. If it's consuming 8 watts, it's in an efficient power source, and it puts out 5 watts radiated power, okay. Maybe even half. But he'd have to show also with a field strength meter what it's actually putting out. Him claiming just because it's a higher frequency, it has more power to it, is bullshit. The wattage hitting every square meter of land out here from light is about a kilowatt of energy. It's 1,000 watts of energy, but it's just light. I can put my hand in the sunlight and it's not exploding. It's a little bit less powerful than a hairdryer, but it doesn't kill you. Infrared energy is just heat. You can use it for transmitting too. If you take a bunch of remotes, or you could do 1,000 watts of that, and that would actually, you could feel it. But you can sit next to a 1,000 watt transmitter at low or high frequencies, and it probably won't do anything that you can detect at all. And he's talking about being afraid of 5G hookups that are not going to be hundreds or thousands of watts. The ideal here is to use lots of little ones that are very low power, so you only put them when they're needed, which means you can exclude people from being able to use 5G if they're not near the connections. It's just like your Wi-Fi or your Bluetooth headset. The idea here is to make it to where there's a rapid fall off so it has no effect. And again, he's claiming it has a very limited area, which means it has a really, really tight fall off. That means at a certain distance it can't affect you because it can't even be used. This is no different than what I've been telling anybody here. Anyway, somebody posted a link to the video. I'll include a link to it. It's pseudo-educational. I stopped at the 4-minute and 32-second mark because he's proven to me categorically he hasn't learned his classes on 5G. He's making assumptions instead of actually learning things, and he's spreading misinformation. And if he was my employee, I would make him publicly post exactly what I've said about it, and then he's ignorant of it. And I hope he did not let his business people know that he does this kind of video. This is pure fear-mongering. It's also bad for business, I understand. But honestly, he's lying to you, or he's just stupid. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.